Well, here's a nod to the media for making a modicum of effort to improve their portrayals of trans people. Those that are not overtly conservative may be doing a somewhat better job at relaying our stories, but I think we need to talk about a massive gap right in the middle of the cis world's discussion of us. I ought to stress how much I appreciate the human interest stories, from HuffPost to BuzzFeed, that keep popping up profiling happy, successful trans people who are confident and loved. You're all wonderful, and I'm glad to see you triumphant. Rock on. These articles and essays are more than warm fuzzies. They can serve as life preservers being thrown out into the internet. I also appreciate, though with a heavy heart, the recounting of tragic stories as well, bringing to the wider public's attention the harsh fact that trans people, especially trans women of color, remain more likely to be treated as objects and as targets than as human beings. And in that stark contrast lies a problem. Where are all the trans people who are working on it, who are still struggling? Cis people don't see us. Cis people don't talk about us. Cis people aren't making our stories go viral because they never hear about us in the first place. Cis people simply aren't telling our stories or sharing our stories, or bothering to give us a platform to raise our own voices until after we've either made it or died trying. This is another manifestation of casual transphobia, indicative of conservatism's pernicious influence over our society. This gap in the middle of the narrative is specifically those trans people who would most benefit from a signal boost. It's no accident that the only trans people we hear about either don't need help because they're basically okay now, or don't need help because they're already dead. How very convenient for cis people that is. It totally lets them off the hook, doesn't it? How this ties into our capitalist society at large and the cultural effects of neoliberalism is, as Ayn Rand believed, and as today's libertarians and Republicans alike believe, that those who deserve help the most are precisely those who need it the least. This is no footnote. This is a major feature of our society. Material wealth and positive attention perpetuate themselves for only a very few, and at the metaphorical banquet of life, nothing but crumbs are left for all the rest. Society's outpourings of love and support automatically pass straight to the top. Notoriety's feedback loop reinforces economic disparities between cis and trans people, while sharpening the reality that unless you're sufficiently good-looking, by conventional cis-binary standards, of course, nobody cares what happens to you. No one cares if you can't get a job, can't afford to transition, cannot live in this cis-sexist world. Cis people with resources to spare, who are able, as well as willing, to help, only care about us when our lives as trans people are either sorted or over. Too many of us are trapped in a perverse kind of queer visibility purgatory, in which we're substellar, yet alive. The public is only interested in us once we've either won or lost our battle for survival, ignoring everyone else who's still in the middle of fighting. And that effectively keeps us stuck here in trans limbo. Trans people who because they are currently living, but not currently famous, who simply need a boost to ease their struggles, are obviously not viewed as viable causes. We are to the transgender tipping point what brown dwarfs are to stellar astronomy. Just not hot enough to be visible.